What's happening, beautiful people? My name is Mike LaBelle. Welcome back to PlayStation Esports, and today we have something special. We're going to teach you how to win more games of FC24 by improving your defending. Playstyles and Playstyles Plus are brand new to FC24, and we're talking about defending. You need to find players that have the best combination of defensive playstyles. That might sound obvious, but it's so noticeable. Jockey, a lot of us use this technique to help with the turning. A sprint jockey, everything is quicker, more responsive, takes up more space. You're gonna make more tackles. Block, this is where your player is getting his legs into motion. He's taking up space. The deflections, especially with the center backs or the holding midfielders, they are going to do you a service. Look out for this play style. Intercept, and I'm talking your back line and all the midfield. If you're running a team press, you're micromanaging, you're trying to have that additional pressure, the percentage of you making interceptions is going to go through the roof and retaining possession. Anticipate, you're getting stuck in with standing tackles, and maybe the most important part of this play style is not only that you're making the tackle, but that you're keeping the ball after making the tackle. There's some different animations if you have anticipate as a play style. Slide tackle, it might sound self-explanatory, but I swear that your player just keeps sliding. The contact is real, and slide tackles in FC24 are mandatory. They make a difference, they're impactful, they break up plays, and especially when you have big defenders, you're able to cut down those angles. The framework is beneficial to you. Bruiser, and even more noticeable if you have one of those big brawly type of players. You're gonna be more physical. The way that you make tackles and confrontations and collisions, it goes in your favor. Aerial, which I know is in the physical section of playstyles, but it plays a factor for winning headers. I wanted to bring it up because when you're defending against set pieces and corner kicks and crosses, even when your opposition lobs the ball forward, you want to be able to win those types of 50-50s. This helps. In order to defend better, you need to understand matchups, personnel, pros and cons, player advantages and disadvantages. Hear me out. Of course, we're looking at play styles, but what about size, strength, accelerate type, pace, and supporting players? Let me tell you a story. I'll paint a picture. If you have one center back that is fast, maybe you can get away with someone who's more physical next to him. And the same could be said with the fullbacks. You need to have coverage. What holding mids? What formation, what tactics are you running? Don't worry, there's more coming in this video to break down some of the specifics, but knowing your players, knowing your matchups will be crucial for defensive success. Tactics and formations. Again, if you want better success and clean sheets, how you set up your team from a tactical standpoint will play a major factor. Custom tactics, defensive styles, let me break it down. Balanced, your team will be somewhat neutral. You get a little bit of some pressure play in the middle of the pitch. Generally speaking, there's not a lot of risk on the defensive end. Pressure on heavy touch, your team will seize naturally additional pressure when they see a loose ball, or if your opposition passes the ball backwards with the defenders, he's swinging it side to side. If it's looking too passive, your team will step up. Pressure after possession loss, when your team loses possession, they then counter press for 7 seconds to see if they can win the ball back quickly. We should mention this will impact fatigue over time. Constant pressure, your team will high pressure the entirety of the pitch. Also should mention high risk, high reward, and your team will be exhausted if you do this from the beginning of a match. Typically, I would use this if you're chasing a game, maybe the last 10 minutes. Drop back, your team will sit deeper, you're preserving defensive shape, but you do not apply pressure, and you're most likely gonna offer up a lot of additional possession to your opposition. It's a more passive way of defending, and I would not recommend unless you already have the lead. If you're struggling with defending, it might be your formation. I've got a couple recommendations, rest assured. You're gonna need holding midfielders. I love the 4-2-3-1 or the 4-2-2-2 because not only do they have the holding midfielders, but they're still balanced. They give you offensive outlets. You can use any formation you like that has holding mids, but you have to make sure that your offensive game plan does not drastically fall off. These are my rules to help you defend better. Having structure, a plan, and guidelines will drastically impact your defensive capabilities and consistency with defending. You're not out there lost on the virtual pitch. Have a defensive plan. Whether it's a matter of an early press, you're sitting back to a certain portion, you're looking to trap the wings, you're allowing this pass in order to take away that pass. You have to have a defensive plan to have success defensively. Understanding spacing. Are you actually in a position to make a tackle or a slide tackle? Should you move this midfielder out of position, or do you need to keep him a little more central? The more that you play, and the more that you watch your footage back, which I highly recommend, you will understand the game of spacing when it comes to FC 24. Reducing offensive angles. This is so clear. Come closer. We know which angles in FC 24 are most dangerous, where people are scoring goals with higher levels of consistency. I call them the danger zones. Eliminate giving up danger zone passes, allowing players to dribble into those spaces. You're playing a game of percentages, and reducing the offensive angles of danger will drastically improve your defending. In FC 24, tackling is more manual than ever. So as a disclaimer, make sure that you're in range. Don't go too crazy. You can't get nervous. Don't start beating down the tackle command. Wait for your moment and look for players that have defensive play styles, because the percentages of making that tackle, having a positive collision and interception, they go through the roof. Interceptions, defensive movement, and player switching. And I want to emphasize player switching. Please make the investment to utilize the right analog stick switch. I would say 90% of my player switching is done via that right analog stick. You can anticipate, you can foresee, you're able to maneuver and multiply your player movement and micromanaging so quickly. And this is the biggest shift, the biggest indicator of improving on the defensive end and upping your levels is your player switching with the right analog stick. You might be asking, defensive planning, where does it begin? You have to measure risk to reward. My defensive programming begins with making sure I eliminate the most dangerous pass on repeat. I do not want to give my opponent an opportunity to build up or to get the ball into dangerous spaces, which provides more choice. I want to eliminate choice. Each calculated choice needs to be worth the risk to reward in terms of a metric of measurability. Even when I'm introducing different tactics, a high press, I'm chasing a game, I want to make sure if I get the ball, I force that interception, that mistake, that error of pass, that now my counterattack starts and it's so dangerous, it's so deadly, that just in case my opposition broke through, it still would have been worth that risk to the reward, to what I'm guaranteeing, to what I'm fulfilling. These have been my defensive tips and techniques. Now it's up to you to practice, get some repetition, some competition. I'm talking about signing up for PlayStation tournaments on your PS5. You need to subscribe to the PlayStation Esports YouTube channel. That's this right here. And I did an offensive deep dive if you're looking for some of the razzle, the dazzle, the extra expression, and I have a lot more content coming out ASAP. PlayStation.